Now, Marcus Noland of the Peterson Institute, arguably our expert on the medieval poverty, the famine of North Korea. Marcus, thrilled to have you on the program today.
My pleasure.
Here are the two books from Marcus Noland among many books: Famine in North Korea on the right, and Korea after the just deceased Kim Jong-il. Marcus, Dr. El-Arian talking about rallying support. How do you rally support in North Korea?
Nuclear test.
Was that what we're going to see?
Well, it could be. I mean, the risks that we face over the next several years stem from Kim Jong-un's relative weakness, not his strength. And it comes out of two channels. One is that he may not have very good control over the government, so parts of it, some part of the army may want to do things in terms of proliferation that the central government might not really like, but they simply can't control. But the other and more dangerous possibilities is exactly the one that Mohammed El-Arian alluded to, which is that in order to burnish his own credentials, to show that he's a strong leader, he may engage in provocations. The simplest one would be a nuclear test, but you could imagine other military provocations like the ones we have observed over the last 18 months towards South Korea.
How will Japan respond to this news event and to further instability on the Korean Peninsula?
Well, I think that everyone is going to just be cautious because there's a sense that we're unlikely to make a lot of progress with North Korea through things like the six-party talks because the government there will simply be too weak to make concessions. But at the same time, we have to be ready for provocations. Now, in the past, Asian markets have sold off for a few days after these sorts of events and then have recovered. And I would expect to see the same pattern. They were down today, but I would expect to see recovery through the rest of the week.
You are arguably the nation, if not the world's expert on their famine. Could you describe for us the medieval state of an $1,800 per capita GDP? Exactly what is the character of the poverty and famine in North Korea?
Well, North Korea is an increasingly unequal and corrupt society. There is an elite centered in the capital city, Pyongyang, who actually do pretty well. And indeed, they're better off now than they were 10 or 20 years ago. They have wider range of access to consumer goods, including imported food. They have cell phones now and so on. But for the bulk of the population, they really live a kind of hand-to-mouth existence. And it's worrisome right now. It appears there's not enough food inside the country. The prices for food, which normally drop quite substantially after the harvest, have continued to rise through the last several months. And the price of corn, a kind of cheaper, less preferred grain, is rising relative to rice. That suggests that families are tightening their belt, cutting down on rice and buying corn. So the signs are worrisome. The U.S. government, it appears, is going to provide food aid, but it looks like we're not going to make much progress on the nuclear talks, which was the reason we provided the aid.
Marcus, Peter Hessler, in his classic Oracle Bones, describes the river between China and North Korea. How will the Chinese respond looking across that river into this mystery?
Well, I think that they're like the rest of us. They may be somewhat better informed and have somewhat greater influence. But the thing that's really striking about North Korea, it is a country that is remarkably insensitive to either punishments or inducements. We sanction them, they more or less keep the same behavior. We try to offer them inducements and sweeteners, they more or less exhibit the same behavior. And I think that the downside risk over the next several years is going to be driven not by their external relations with China or anyone else. It's going to be driven by their own internal politics.
Marcus, thank you so much. Marcus Noland, the Peterson Institute. I can't say enough about his work.